Hello, my name is Cheyenne Drew. I'm a rising senior business pre-law student, and I chose to interview Giselle Roget, who is my supervisor here for my internship at the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development in Washington, D.C. I chose Giselle because she is my boss, and I have not yet worked under someone of her caliber ever. She is truly an amazing woman. To me, her credentials are astonishing, and throughout the gigantic building that is HUD, everyone refers to her as the real deal. She got her degree in history from Yale in 2005, and then she worked in the House of Representatives for a few years. She's been the assistant vice president of MetLife since 2014, and since 2017, she has worked as the deputy assistant secretary at HUD. Some fun facts: her brother was classmates with Dr. Ben Carson's son at Yale, and Dr. Ben Carson is the secretary at HUD, so it's cool to see that she's been connected to Dr. Ben Carson since before she even worked here. She has been living and working here in D.C. for several years, and she has seen different levels of leadership at work within the U.S. legislative branch and executive agencies. And so, because I am pursuing a career in public policy and public service, I think that she is truly a model citizen and someone I look up to a great deal. Because she is my boss, I maintain a very professional relationship with her, and my perception of her going into the interview and during the interview was that she is so approachable and willing to talk, yet I find her incredibly intimidating just because of her credentials and the way people just adore her all around HUD. She's super busy as the deputy assistant secretary, so I try to get the assignment done as quickly for her sake as possible, but also as thoroughly for my sake as possible. Something that I've noticed about those in power or in leadership positions here in DC is that they're usually very willing to give their time and their resources, if it's available, to the interns. And so I feel really privileged to be around not only Giselle, but other leaders who are willing to help out people like us who are not being paid with money, but in experience. So her answers were a bit concise, a little bit brief, but I attribute that to her to-do list because as her intern, I've seen it, and it is rather extensive. So I would like to highlight some of the key leadership characteristics and key statements made by her that aided in my understanding of leadership on a more practical level. Some of her answers to my questions, I think to best serve her and the listener of this video, I should just read it word for word because what she said was actually really great. I asked, how do you help your team resolve conflict? How would you go about getting cohesion among a team who disagrees? She said, I would find common ground between the members who disagree. Here at HUD, that common ground tends to be the mission of HUD, which is increasing accessibility to affordable housing for all and facilitating participants' self-sufficiency. Our common goal is our common ground, and if we break down what divides us within this workplace, we can always find our mission to be our new ground zero. And I had never heard of conflict resolution posed in that manner. I probably myself wouldn't have come up with such a strategy as that for getting people back on board and willing to work with one another. So her views on conflict resolution definitely resonated with me because it seemed like a creative approach to getting people to see eye to eye. And overall, it's just the mission of what we're working for as a whole is the mission statement, and it's cool to see that firsthand how the mission statement of an organization can unite people who disagree within the workplace. I also said, what are some of your biggest challenges as the DOS in single-family housing? What is the most difficult part of being the deputy assistant secretary or being a leader? She said, some of the biggest challenges can be using the relatively little funding we receive and allocating it wisely. It can be a lot of pressure to get it right, and knowing all the things that can go wrong and be so costly to the organization is a really heavy weight on my shoulders. The repercussions of a misstep within our department can be detrimental to the entire organization, so I really need to make sure everyone is being efficient. Knowing how she handles the pressures of being the kind of leader that she is, it was just a really great learning experience for me because I think that now that I can see my tasks through her eyes and how important the things that I have to do and my coworkers have to do for the Office of Housing, I think it really gets us back on board to what we need to be doing, and always give it 110%, knowing the mission of HUD and what can happen if we don't do our best or better than our best. I also said, how can a leader fail? And she said, a leader can fail if they fail to listen. The people who work closely with the housing statistics point out discrepancies and bring their concerns to my attention. There have been times when if I had ignored the warnings of the people under me, the results could have been detrimental to HUD as a whole. And so I personally resonate with that because a lot of times I listen to reply rather than listen to understand. And I think I really need to do a better job of listening to understand and listening to people's concerns rather than just listening to have a reply. My perception of Giselle after the interview is only more positive than it was before. I can see our division more clearly of HUD, and it is useful to try and see my tasks through her eyes, like I said. I have a better understanding of why she communicates the way she does and how she's able to foster the results she wants from the division. Her leadership style definitely reflects a more authority compliance structure, as there is a heavy emphasis on the task and job requirements and a little bit less emphasis on the organization. She expects high competence and moderately high commitment to accomplishing the tasks given to us. I would say she is more directive than supportive, but I can understand why, because her position and the work that we do has such high stakes. It's taxpayer funded. So if we misstep, if we get something wrong, it looks bad on the entire organization, and it can have seriously financially detrimental effects on everyone. Something that I've noticed is that a lot of the other offices within HUD, such as the Office of Public Affairs, their work environment's a bit more lively. In the Office of Housing, we're pretty quiet. We all keep to ourselves. We get our work done every single day, and then we go home. But now, after further examining the importance of the role or the work that we're doing in the Office of Housing, I can see why we don't interact with each other as much as we could, just because she expects the work to get done quickly, efficiently, and effectively. Certain aspects of her leadership I would definitely like to replicate and add to my own leadership style. Her conflict resolution, getting the team to look past the politics and focus on the mission, I think would be great for me to use in the future. She outlined listening. I need to get better at listening to understand, not listening to reply or to argue or to form a rebuttal. I learned from this interview that she emphasizes the shouldering of challenges within leadership and how she doesn't get discouraged or burn out by the demands of leadership. And I also learned that part of being a leader is taking things more seriously. A lot of the other leadership positions that I've had within student government or just other organizations have allowed me more leeway to show my personality a bit more, but considering this is high stakes work, taxpayer funded, I wouldn't say that that's necessarily permissible in this environment. Overall, I'm really interested to see how her profound influence will manifest itself in my life and in my career in the coming years. I definitely want to be as passionate about what I do as she is about what she does. One of the reasons why she's so passionate about her work is because of the Fair Housing Act that was passed in 1968 that ended the practice of redlining and redlining deprived African Americans of fair housing. She's an African American woman, so seeing her take our work very personally because of its historical significance is also something that I'd like to be able to do in my life. When I'm eventually working in public policy, I would like to find an issue that hits close to home for me and be able to take it to heart and drive others to see the results. Overall, Giselle is an incredible leader, and I would like to be able to command authority the way she does at some point in my leadership career. I'm grateful for this assignment, giving me an excuse to go into her office and interview her and pick her brain, and I'm excited to finish up the class strong.